Wait, something doesn't add up.
Aw, really?
It's simply not possible for Mr. Faraday to have shot Mr. Rell after being stabbed. Take that! According to the coroner's report, Mr. Faraday died instantaneously, meaning that he died immediately upon being stabbed by the knife. Ergo, he could not possibly have fired the gun after that.
Aw, you got me.
But of course.
Well then, if the report is correct, then there's only one correct explanation. If we suppose that Mr. Rell attacked first, then Mr. Faraday, who died instantaneously, would have been unable to kill Mr. Rell. Therefore, Mr. Rell must have stabbed Mr. Faraday after he was shot. Then they both died. That is the only explanation that makes logical sense.
Negating your opponent's ideas in order to prove your own theory. I see you've been studying, Franzisca.
I just wanted to explain it to you as simply as possible. Therefore, you foolishly propose a foolish theory that only a foolish fool like you could.
How naive of you to believe that only your opinions are valid, and still expect to discover the truth that the crime scene offers you. Franzisca, you've still got a ways to go.
What are you talking about? Are you saying there's a flaw in my logic?
Mr. Faraday died instantly, and the fact that he did is what gives rise to this contradiction in this scene. The contradiction here in this crime scene is... Let me get this straight. What you are arguing is this. Mr. Faraday took the gun from his evidence bag and shot Mr. Rell. Then, the wounded Mr. Rell found an opportunity to take the knife and strike back. Upon being stabbed, Mr. Faraday died on the spot, and Mr. Rell died thereafter. If that's the case, then how do you explain this? Take a good look at the order in which their bodies are piled.
9!
Mr. Faraday's body is lying on top of Mr. Rell's. Therefore, Mr. Rell must have died before Mr. Faraday.
Impossible!
Yes, I agree that it seems strange no matter what angle you approach it from. Which means that the real mystery behind this crime scene that—
Objection! 9! Not so fast, Miles Edgeworth.
What now?
I simply think you ought to think a bit more outside the box. And that it's even clearer now that the incident started with Mr. Faraday's murderous intent.
She sure bounced back quickly. An explanation won't be enough this time. It's going to take some very decisive evidence to prove her wrong.
It was just chance that Mr. Faraday's body fell on top of Mr. Rell's. The two bodies fell into a pile, which indicates that they attacked each other at the same time. It really doesn't matter in the slightest that they fell in the opposite order.
I just know that Franzisca's explanation isn't absolutely correct. All I have to do is find a hole in her logic. Once I do, I can then present her with the evidence that proves the contradiction. I've just got to keep my cool and not let her intimidate me. Now, where to start looking for this contradiction? If I press the wrong statement first, I might find myself on the other end of that writing crop. I think the order that they fell does matter. But is there any evidence I hold that can prove that? Let's see, one fell after the other. No gunpowder burn, which means... Objection! Please ignore that. I was just practicing what I'd say when I finally find the contradiction. Did she notice anything? No, I don't think she did. It's the perfect crime. Objection! Nope, still practicing. Have to make sure those vocal cords get a good workout. Objection! And boy, are they getting a good workout right now. When I find that contradiction, I'm going to be really loud and proud about it. And here it is, right here. Objection! Oh, just use a safe state. Hold it! Do you really believe they fell in the exact opposite order in which they attacked?
Miles Edgeworth, you're not listening to a word I'm saying! They both attacked each other at the same time, and Mr. Rell fell first by chance, leaving Mr. Faraday to just happen to fall on top of him. Then Mr. Rell died shortly thereafter, pinned underneath Mr. Faraday. That's how it happened.
So the two men attacked each other, with Mr. Rell randomly falling down first? The fact that the order that they attacked each other in varies from the order they fell in doesn't cause a problem for me. However, there's definitely one certain aspect that I'm having trouble swallowing. Now, to see if I can just coax it out of her. Hold it! About that—
Objection! Pressing someone's testimony in order to gain some time to think. You're a real one-trick pony, aren't you? It's too bad your tricks only work on fools.
That wasn't my intent! I simply wish for more details as to how Mr. Faraday ended up on top of Mr. Rell.
Someone's impatient. I was just about to explain everything to you. So, do you think you could hold on for a minute?
Franzisca, I'll make you a deal. I'll hold on if you hold on to that whip of yours.
Oh, I'll hold on to it, all right, as I whip you. Well, now that you've quieted down for a bit, I'd like to continue if you don't mind.
What I mind is being used as target practice for your whip, Franzisca. And this to the person who shared his Black Forest cake when you got none and started to cry about it. Objection! Well, that didn't work. Perhaps another piece of evidence I have in here. Objection! Or maybe I could just start throwing evidence around willy-nilly. Objection! Because apparently I'm not smart enough to figure it out. Objection! Any other way! Hold it! What do you mean by they attacked each other at the same time?
I assume Mr. Faraday had two different weapons in his hand. He made to attack Mr. Rell while holding both the knife and revolver. And then, after Mr. Faraday fired the gun, Mr. Rell grabbed the knife as he was falling and stabbed Mr. Faraday. That is how Mr. Rell wound up on the bottom with Mr. Faraday on top. At close range, that is more than possible.
Yes, it's possible, but...
Well, if you have any other ideas, then show me what you've got!
Oh, I will. And to that extent, I'd like for you to append what you just said to your testimony.
I don't see any point to that, but as you please.
Finally, after a long battle, I find the contradiction at last. Objection! So you believe they killed each other at close range? Sorry, but that's impossible. Just as it is written in the crime scene notes, the firing of the handgun did not leave a gunpowder burn on Mr. Rell's clothes. Therefore, Mr. Rell and the gun must have been separated by a distance of at least 2 or 3 yards. Yes, this is by far the biggest contradiction. The two bodies are piled up on each other, yet the gun was fired from a distance. And with there being no chance that Mr. Rell moved that far after being shot, that leaves only one possible explanation.
What a completely foolish line of foolish thought from a thoroughly foolish fool! If I'm not right, then who was it that made the first move with the intent to kill? Huh? Who?
The person that attacked first with murderous intent? That would be... here in this room. Contradictions appear no matter which man we claim attacked first. Thus, there can be only one explanation. There was a third person here! It was that third person who killed both Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rell, and set their bodies up to make it look like a double murder. That third person is the real culprit!
Edgeworth. There's just one thing you're missing.
Evidence, correct?
Exactly. Everything you've said up until now is nothing but a story played out in your head. However, this is where the real test begins. Can you prove that there was a third person involved in this crime?
Of course. If a third person was truly here, that fact would resolve the glaring contradiction. The proof that this has all been a setup, made to look like they killed each other. I'll present it, and lay bare the final piece of the puzzle that's not yet in place. What is the piece of evidence that proves there is a third person involved? Could it perhaps be in this testimony? Take that! This is not at all that evidence. This is my hell, isn't it? This is the hell I've been resigned to, consistently failing to present the correct evidence to resolve contradictions. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I'd like to be let out, please. Take that! The gun in Mr. Faraday's hand and the plastic bag with his blood on it. These two items point to the presence of a third person.
How so?
Recall Detective Gumshoe's testimony.
I was in the hallway the whole time, but I didn't hear a single peep of a struggle.
If there wasn't a struggle in this room, then there shouldn't be any plastic bags on the ground. Meaning that someone else must have deliberately scattered them around. Do you not see the possibility in this? Disregarding the gun for the moment, there's a high probability of blood spatter when a knife is used on a person. If the culprit held the knife with the plastic bag around it, they could use the bag to catch any blood splatter from when they withdrew the knife. Then, by spreading a few more plastic bags around, mixing the bloody one in with them, and arranging the room to make it look like there was a struggle between the two, they were able to conceal their presence.
Looks like we've still got a long way to go in this investigation.
Yes.
Objection!
Oh boy. What the heck's up with you, pal?
Mr. Bad, given your position, I advise you to place Detective Gumshoe under arrest.
What? You can't arrest me! That's my job!
Huh? What's the meaning of this?
Don't make me repeat myself. Stomping around like a child will get you nowhere.
Don't you dare!
That detective claims he was there, standing in front of the door the entire time. But I have it in good authority that it was all a giant lie.
What?
Miss Yew, I ask that you please explain that last statement.
I'll let His Honor explain it himself.
I saw it with my own eyes, I tell you. During the recess, there was a period of time when there was no one in the hallway.
What?
See, Mr. Bad. So, I ask you, why would a detective who was supposedly doing his job the whole time want to fabricate such a lie?
Gumshoe, did you kill Faraday?
No! No! Of course not, sir!
It would appear that the one who set the whole crime scene up is that detective, which basically renders his testimony a complete lie and wholly invalid. It looks like your perfect logic has come tumbling down, Miles.
I was in the hallway the whole time, but I didn't hear a single peep of a struggle.
Was that statement really a lie?
Detective Gumshoe, you're now a suspect in the murder of two men. Now, spit out the truth, or so help me!
I haven't lied to anyone, sir! Honest! I really was there! I was in the hallway the whole time!
Hold it! Detective Bad, I ask that you please do not act without my permission. After all, I am the one that is heading up this investigation, am I not?